June 30th, 2017 was a big day for gamers as Crash Bandicoot N Sane Trilogy was released on the PlayStation 4 to generally positive reviews of critics and fans alike. N Sane Trilogy is the first home console release in nearly 9 years after 2008's Crash Mind Over Mutant, a game that was met with very mixed responses. By 2016, the 20th anniversary of the series, a new Crash game was way overdue, and fans began to grow worried for the character's future under Activision. However, in June of that same year during E3, the head of Sony Worldwide Studios, Sean Layden, announced that as a result of a special partnership between Sony and Activision, the first 3 Crash Bandicoot titles will be brought to the current generation of consoles by Vicarious Visions in the form of an HD remaster collection. These news tickled the pickles of both old and new platforming fans around the globe. Back when that all originally started, the Crash Bandicoot franchise pushed the PlayStation 1 to its limits, with Naughty Dog writing custom game engines, compressors, and other tools in order for Crash to graphically excel and rise above other action platformers of the day. Besides the extraordinary visuals, however, what I think many fans can appreciate just as much is the profound effect that the musical compositions of the early titles had on our lives. It was a music which filled those lush levels that really played a big role in defining our younger years. In today's video, I'd like to present my personal opinion on N Sane Trilogy's revamped soundtracks for Crash 1, 2, and 3, and focus specifically on where Vicarious Visions fell short. The comeback trailer for Crash Bandicoot that debuted at PlayStation Experience in December 2016 was possibly the first time a worldwide audience heard the oh-so-familiar main theme in its re-recorded form. The title track sounded so true to the original 1996 version that my initial impression was wow. If they nail that one, then the rest of the OST is surely guaranteed to be just as faithful. But then I had a deep thought. Why is this whole N Sane Trilogy remaster thing coming out in the first place, when they could have just went on and created a new installment for the franchise? Well, you see, the original trilogy, although holding out pretty well even to this day, can surely benefit from a graphical overhaul and adjusted game mechanics in some stages. And I could also see why the games are coming to the PlayStation 4. I mean, it's the best-selling console of this generation, and when Crash Bandicoot originally came out, it came out on the PlayStation. So it does make sense for them to put out one of the best-selling game trilogies of the PS1 era in stunning HD on the PS4. Once again though, like back in 1996, it's really all about exposition of graphical capabilities. There was never really a major concern with how the musical composition sounded within the Crash games. According to Josh Mancell, the original Bandicoot composer, when working on the original Crash tetralogy, the songs did have to be slightly compressed and downsampled to allocate more space for all the graphical needs, but those songs nonetheless sounded kick-ass even at a fairly low bitrate that they were restricted to. The compositions always sounded quirky, but at the same time very interesting and detailed, certainly highlighting Josh Mancell's personal talent of being a great multi-instrumentalist and composer. So with that said, did Vicarious Visions really need to rework the Crash soundtracks? They never sounded bad at all, so why was the choice made to re-record and, I hate this word, reimagine the music of the original trilogy? Let me go game by game and tell you why I think the original tunes should have been left untouched. So really quickly guys, before we begin this, I wanted to disagree with a lot of comments I'm seeing out there that urge people to shut up and stop being nitpicky and stuff like that, because I personally think that being nitpicky is not a bad thing, especially when the element of a song you're criticizing is crucial to how the overall composition sounds. Also, it's good to have a different opinion from someone else, because that often leads to interesting discussions. I personally wanted to make this video as I am a huge music fan, an occasional instrument player here and there, so music is an aspect of video games that I definitely like to talk about. So let's start with the first game. As already mentioned earlier in this video, the re-recorded main theme for Crash 1 does perfect justice to the original track. Every time that I hear it, I immediately think of the long-awaited return of our favorite Bandicoot, and by keeping the track intact without adding or removing any of the crucial instruments, it really does pay homage to a game that started it all. When you advance past the iconic first level, however, my attitude towards the musical arrangement of the game's tracks tends to get slightly mixed. Jungle Roller sticks to the memorable xylophone melody with a slightly subdued bass line that now actually reminds me of the original Spyro game for some reason. but overall the mix of the tracks sounds a little flat to my ear. If you manage to get the 3 Tana tokens while playing the level, you get teleported to the bonus round, and that is the part of the level that sadly I no longer want to stand around in for too long. I could see this being a very unpopular opinion, and spoiler, this video will be full of them, but I think adding the reverb electric guitar in the chorus part was a very wrong choice. It doesn't fit the atmosphere and it overcomplicates the simplicity that standing around the treetops is supposed to bear.
Okay, guys, this will be quite challenging, but let's do it.
And sonically, it takes you to a place different to the one that you're already in, so for me, it's kind of a mismatch. Further along in the game, there were other significant moments in the soundtrack that I kinda wanna carp at. Temple Ruins, Toxic Waste, and the Neocortex theme are among the tracks that sound amazing in the original game, but were heavily mistreated in this insane remaster. I feel like Temple Ruins lost its creepy ambience, and to be honest, I feel that can be attributed to the wrong choice of instruments. The song sounds more upbeat and lively instead of eerie and uncertain like it used to. Toxic Waste, on the other hand, is not all bad. As a metal fan, I consider it a very good rendition, but the use of hammer-ons in the main riff instead of the more blocky staccato notes like before sounds a little weird to me. When I finally got to the Neocortex boss fight and heard the legendary theme, I wasn't too impressed, to be quite honest. Vicarious Visions made the song much darker than it was, a little like doom metal, and considering the wacky visual design Cortex now has, I feel that the song is somewhat incompatible with his looks and the way he's presented in the Insane Trilogy. But besides all of these things that I don't really agree with, I must say that I probably enjoyed the Crash 1 soundtrack the most out of the 3 games in this HD collection. Amongst my personal favorites were tracks such as Upstream, Heavy Machinery, Papu Papu's theme, Road to Nowhere, Embryo's theme, and even Hog Wild. Besides that ridiculous surf rock guitar. Oh, what were you thinking? Now let's move on to Crash 2. Oh man. Right off the bat, the soundtrack sincerely disappoints with a heavily modified version of the title theme, which, let's all be honest, sounds bland, is missing instrumentation, and lacks that spacey feel that the game is supposed to possess. I was hoping that the disappointments would be over after the main theme, but to my regret, it was only the beginning. The Warp Room theme is such a legendary tune, and hearing it in such a butchered state was very saddening. The intro of it feels like the volume is somehow dipping, and the high-pitched recorder/flute sounding instrument thing that plays the main melody, to me is very out of place. This game isn't about the Pied Piper, for heaven's sakes. The jetboard levels and the snow levels in Crash 2 are my all-time favorite in terms of both gameplay and music, and while I can't say that stages like Snow Go really made me happy in regard to their re-recorded music tracks, the jet ski levels in the form of Hang 8, Air Crash, and Plant Food, on the contrary, were quite honestly defiled. The over-exaggerated surf rock vibe stands out way too much in the new version, and the pre-chorus is so heavily stacked with a bunch of different instruments and splash cymbals that it gets quite noisy and not in the best way at all. Also, why do the hippos look so disgustingly greasy? As if that was on topic. The sewer levels sound weaker, the B levels sound tropical for some unknown reason, and the ruin stages are a strange hybrid of the Oriental and the Arabic. Just why? Also, the tracks for Piston Away and Spaced Out sound way too simple and generic for what the levels have to offer. The only revisited tracks in this game that I can personally mark as successful are probably Ripperoo's theme, Rocket, and the Komodo Brothers boss battle. The Neocortex theme was crippled yet again, come on! The audio dudes of Vicarious Visions took way too much liberty with that one. Why does the badass theme for an evil genius have to be turned into a mix of trip-hop, a power ballad, and a classical aria? The choices that the sound team made particularly for this game, I simply cannot understand. Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back is the fan favorite and had absolutely no choice but to sound amazing in this new remaster, which it simply does not. I personally feel it could have been treated so much better. And now to the final game of the compilation.
Crash Bandicoot Warped!
The main theme for Crash 3 sounds so good in this new rendition. It has a nice punch to it, and the electric guitar sounds very well with the xylophone. Wanna know why? Because the guitar is pushed somewhat to the background behind the main melody, without showing itself off way too hard. And that is exactly what the Warp Room theme suffers from in this game. The guitars are superfluous, and I'm quite confident that the original instruments could have done the job just as well as they always did. Very thankful though that the iconic medieval levels sounded very good at least. There were no unnecessary electronics added in, which made the tune sound very true to the original. But after that, the woes continue as expected. Under Pressure retains its ambience, but sounds way too simple. Orient Express utilizes super generic virtual instruments that sound like they came out of Acoustica Mixcraft or something. And Boneyard definitely did not give any boners, like what's up with the weird marimbas, unfitting strings in the background, and the super loud main riff. The Arabic and the Egyptian levels were always known for their epic soundtracks, so what happened there? They sound so much weaker. So many tracks in this trilogy have lost their edge. And why would that be, you're asking? Well, because signature instruments were so often removed or replaced, that's why. There's no need to reinvent the bicycle, guys. If it works perfectly, then let it run. Thankfully, the Dingo Dial track saw things added to it that didn't ruin it at all. It actually sounds pretty cool with the electric guitars. It now has a little more attitude that it might have and did needed before, so no complaints here. Oh, and Tiny Tiger's theme is pretty great in this one as well. Certainly much better than the one in the Crash 2 remaster. To be honest, I was hoping that the third time's the charm saying could be applied to the Neo Cortex theme here, but yet again, it has been abused, spat on with full force, and then thrown into the game. Why does one of my favorite bosses in the series have to be so disrespected? That's just beyond me, guys. The entire soundtrack for Crash Warped feels like it was either rushed to push the game out as soon as possible, or just simply not cared enough for in the first place. Either way, it's kinda sad. Crash Warped is my favorite Crash game, and in terms of music, I'd probably rate it the worst in this remastered collection. So, overall, it's a downhill slide from 1 to 3. Such a shame. Alright guys, let's wrap up this long and self-indulgent video. It's been quite a long trip here. Please don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely happy and stoked that our favorite Bandicoot has returned, and graphically, the remasters look amazing, but there were just so many instances when the Vicarious Visions audio team simply disappointed me with their decisions, by reworking many iconic tracks, removing instruments, etc., for no apparent reason. And I can definitely understand that updated visuals might indeed require some sonic modifications here and there to match each other better and paint a more cohesive image overall, but I feel that with just a tiny bit of remastering, the levels in which the tracks were butchered could easily use Josh Mancell's original files in uncompressed format. As we discussed in the beginning, the tracks on the original PS1 games were compressed to leave space for the graphics, but that problem does not exist anymore, so his pre-console versions of the soundtracks would sound absolutely incredible without having to waste time and money on some half-assed and clueless revisions by the people who probably never even played the original games until they were told to do so. Seriously guys, shoutouts to Josh Mancell, he's the man. Go listen to his tracks on SoundCloud. Well guys, this is all just one dude's thoughts, and I really want to hear how you feel about the soundtracks of the Sane Trilogy and the games in general, so please leave your comments down below, my friends. I absolutely love it when we all engage in a discussion. And if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to stay tuned for more, because more is coming. Alright guys, thank you so much for your support, and I hope you have a great one.